1 in 5 women, 1 in 5 men, 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health condition during their lifetime. Mental health conditions will affect those close to us, those we love, those we work with, our friends, neighbors, and our families. When a mental illness touches one of us, it impacts the whole family. This film is an introduction for families who are just beginning their journey. We will share the experiences and insights of the many families who have made the journey before you.
Some people blame themselves a lot and start to try and understand why this has happened, and maybe going back and thinking about, I wasn't here, maybe there was abuse in the family, maybe they were refugees. I think it's normal for people in these early stages to try and have some kind of understanding of how this occurred. So I think the first thing that I like to do is just to hear the person's story, however long that takes. And I think it can be very cathartic just to tell your story in a safe place.
There was a cone of silence in our family that never was broken. Even in periods when my mother was relatively well, we never talked about what was happening. It was never given a name. It was never given a label. It was never given this place that you could say, oh, this is what's wrong. I remember one aunt saying, well, your mother's sick. And I might have been about 8 or 9, and I remember thinking, can I catch this?
My faith community's understanding of mental illness, it was really kind of unspoken, but it was mental illness is from a lack of faith, non-blessing, maybe even from the devil, very sort of suspicious. Mental health was never talked about. When it was talked about negatively.
I was born in Jamaica. I've been in Canada since I was 2.5, 3 years old. How does my culture deal with mental health? We don't talk about it. Mental disorders don't exist within our culture, in the sense that we just simply, it's so taboo of a subject that we don't talk about it. People experiencing those issues within my culture are ostracized, and not just it's a complete ostracization. They're removed from the society.
Well, I'm from the Korean community, and mental health and just in general there's a huge stigma. It's almost seen as an embarrassment to seek help. That discourages a lot of people within the Korean community in seeking help and support. I think that is the hugest obstacle for us. A lack of awareness, a lack of understanding that, we're a very proud people and it's seen as a sign of weakness. And we seem to shun weakness at all costs. In my family, the effects of that, the cultural aspects of it was, let's hide it, it's a secret.
Various cultures treat mental health or understand mental health in a different way. Some cultures believe that it's a family issue, therefore you do not get support outside the family, you deal with it within the family, so it's kind of like don't speak, don't tell. In some cultures it's a taboo, thinking that there's something wrong with your family. It's just not the individual, but it's the whole family system, so people try to keep it to themselves. Whereas some other cultures see it as a spiritual growth within someone, so they try to use that. So as you can see, there are various ways in which cultures approach mental health. Some can be positive, some may be questionable. However, it's important to recognize those differences and work with them.
As soon as my family were, open and talk to other families, say, hey, you know what? You know, we've gone through this experience. It was like a domino effect. In my own life, my friends started saying that, you know what? I have an aunt with schizophrenia or bipolar, and then they started to tell me these stories, and it was just, I started to compile these stories of, you know, families in distress and with a lack of options, and I was like, they just needed that one person or that one family to say, hey, you know what? We've experienced those kinds of experiences. We've been in those similar situations, and then they're just waiting. It's like a game of double dutch where you're just kind of like, when do I step in? When do I step in? When do I step in? And they just want the permission. And once you have that permission, it's just like, it's like a sense of relief. They're like, I've been waiting for this conversation my whole life, you know? And it's like, I wish there was like a forum for us to talk about it. And I'm like, you know, if I could be that catalyst, and if my family can help other families deal with mental health issues, and I think that's great. My mother tells me stories of how she talks to her girlfriends, and they're like, wow, I've been keeping this a secret for years, that my son has anxiety. He has depression. You know, I've been trying to keep this under wraps for so long, and it's just taken a toll on me. And my mom actually told me an interesting story where she told a girlfriend, and they actually cried together. And she was just so thankful that, you know, like there was someone out there that she can talk to and share this experience with. So I think, you know, the hardest step is to make that first step, and to say, hey, you know what? And in the Korean community, it's a huge chance. You don't know how you're going to be received. From my experience, the step is worth taking. It's been positive for me. There's always a family member or a friend or a spouse or a partner or someone that is going through something, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to talk about it.
My name is Lloyd Robertson, and my connection with mental illness is through my mother. And indeed, I only started talking about it myself a couple of years ago. And when it was revealed on a documentary we did last year, I had immediate calls from people who wanted to talk about this. So it's everywhere. We know that. And we are delighted to be a part of something that is bringing this subject out of the shadows for the first time. Fighting stigma, as we all know, is not going to be easy because 50% of people who are worried about mental illness being in their families or have mental illness in their families say they would not tell anyone about it, even today. So we have a long way to go, but at least we're making a start, we're getting there, and I know that a lot of great things will come out of this conference in that respect.
It's taken me 4 years to get here, and no words can express how deeply honored and moved I am to be here with my sister Jessie and my nephew Kalen. I would not be here if it wasn't for them. So I am here today not as the actress that you all probably have seen on the various screens available for our entertainment today, but as a member of a family. I'm here as a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a mother. I have learned that 1 out of 4 families is touched by mental illness. The fact that mine is one of them puts us right at the heart of the entire human family.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today and for helping to spread the word on mental illness and mental health. We have Glenn Close, who is here with her family, and Jessie Close and Kaylin Pick, who have together co-founded a very important organization in the United States called Bring Change to Mind.
Glenn mentioned earlier the disconnect between how common these problems are. In Canada, our data tells us 1 in 5 Canadians, not over the course of their lives, 1 in 5 Canadians every year experiences some form of mental illness. So why would something so ubiquitous, so common, be associated with so much prejudice and discrimination?
I think it's tremendously important that we just have the courage to, come out. Me as living with in a family with mental illness, and my family members as living with those mental illnesses themselves. There's nothing to, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You're not alone. 1 in 4 is a pretty staggering number. And that's why it's always amazing to me that there's so much stigma. Because if people are honest, they know someone.
If you have hesitation about talking about this, just tap into the love instead of the suffering, because they're equal. Actually, the love is bigger.
Well, start small, Start talking amongst yourselves within your family. And then, find a group, another family or an organization in your community where you can take the step to talk to maybe a few more people. It's easier said than done for sure, but I think it's the little wins that will count. Just go one step at a time. And I think if you really are serious about the recovery of your family members, that you should take seriously your need to be able to talk about it, to lift that burden from them and from yourself.
The other thing for families is the opportunity to get support from other families, to learn from the experience of other families who've also had to deal with a family member who's faced their own struggles. And there's a huge amount to be learned from other families, as well as a huge amount of support that people can get from other families, that shared experience.
Brown, and we're at the 6th annual Simply Divas, which is the annual fundraising event for Families Association for Mental Health Everywhere. Simply Divas is the boost of support that they need financially, as well as getting their name out into the community for a place of support. And Simply Divas is a really great way to bring kids in from Etobicoke School of the Arts, get a younger community as well as their families, and the families of the association as well.
The event today is our annual event called Simply Divas. It's a partnership with the Etobicoke School of the Arts. And the people who came here today are friends and family and people who are interested in what we do. And sometimes they're just people who discover us and think this looks kind of cool. And it's a celebration, and it's our opportunity as an agency to find a voice for mental health, and actually a song for mental health.
Today sends a message of hope that those who are supporting family members with a mental illness can really get the most out of life, can enjoy a wonderful afternoon with friends, be not inhibited by the stigma which still is associated with mental illness, can really be free to enjoy life, meet with other people who have similar causes and challenges.
At the time, though, you know you aren't alone, and though you know this happens to probably thousands of people, until you hear that you are very, very positively not alone, and there are many other people going through exactly what you're going through, you really understand that you are not alone, and it is a very comforting feeling.
Doesn't matter your gender, your religion, how much money you have, where you come from, where you're going. This is every man's illness. And an afternoon like this just says it's okay. That we have, these things are okay, and that you are just like everybody else. And sometimes they need to know that. And that's what we really try to bring today, is that this is every man's illness.
Yeah, my name's Brian Stanton. We're at Art Thompson Arena in Pickering, Ontario, and we're here today running the No Surrender Hockey Challenge. It's a hockey tournament in support of the Canadian Mental Health Association, and so just a bunch of friends and family out having a good time and playing some shinny. Friends, family, colleagues, everybody has their own story, their own connection to the cause. The message I think that I hope this event will send to the community is that we need to sort of break down some of those barriers and those walls that prevent people from getting the help that they might need. I don't think that it's an easy thing to do. I don't think that we're going to turn on a switch and it's going to be okay for everybody just to talk openly. But little by little, it'll happen, right? So that would be the ultimate goal of the event. It's nice to raise as much money as we can for the Canadian Mental Health Association. We think they do good work, but I think that's really the heart of what we're trying to do.
I have a couple family members and many friends who have dealt with mental health issues throughout their life, and many of them are here today, in fact, so it's great to be here to just raise awareness of mental health in Canada and to try to kind of erase the stigma.
Well, I think the interesting thing is I think there is a connection for sure. Hockey is all about being tough and confident and all that, and I think by bonding the two together, it's allowing guys that are growing up in a way that they have to be tough and they have to be confident to feel comfortable to talk about it. And I know, I have friends that played hockey, guys that talk about it now, and it took them a long time because growing up in the hockey culture, it's tough. But definitely, I think there's a bond between the two.
It's kind of I guess I don't call it liberating, but it is kind of nice to see that it's not a taboo subject anymore. Especially in the hockey culture. People like. We were talking about how it's a really tough game, so you need to put on that tough guy image, and it was always seen as your emotions were a weak thing, but really it's an issue that you have to address and to get healthy from that. So it's nice to see that it's opening up and people are actually talking about it and seeking help for it.
You can have a conversation and discuss those type of things openly. It should be okay. I think that's one of the problems is that everybody's kind of behind closed doors and things don't get figured out until it's too late. So, it's nice to see. I think it's long overdue, and I think it needs to be opened up, not just in hockey, but amongst other venues.
Well, I just think, we're saying by being here that, it's okay. Like there's some acceptance. It's okay to have a mental illness. It's okay to know someone that has a mental illness. I think they're showing their support for the people that are struggling sometimes on a day-to-day basis with these problems, and we should start a dialogue and make things better.
My name is Justin Trudeau, and my family has both had the joy and the struggles of having a mother who was bipolar. Through much of my life, we didn't really know she was bipolar. And then as she became aware of it, we started dealing with it as a family. You know, there were moments where she was in total denial that there was any sort of challenge. There were moments where she was self-medicating rather heavily with both prescription and you know, softer drugs, from alcohol to a bit of pot. There were moments where she was seeking help, and the people she was turning to for help ended up being more enablers than anything else. There were times when she was under good, qualified medical care, but that wasn't giving her the right kind of treatment, the right kind of, you know, mix in terms of medications that weren't keeping her balanced. And the challenge we had throughout was being there for her. Fortunately, we had a very large family and a lot of love in the family, so you know, when it became too much for one of us, another one stepped in, and we managed to surround her with love and with attention, not perfectly all the time, because it is very hard. But you know, we've gotten to a point now over probably 20 years of active struggling, to a point where I am so proud of my mom. I am so proud of what she's achieved just in terms of caring for herself and knowing her balance points and her triggers, and knowing how to react when she feels that she's going a little too far one way or another. She is now working with a doctor, and they have very much a partnership about you know, how my mom's doing, and you know, mom's almost become as much of an expert on anyone else as to how, you know, what she needs in terms of medications at any given moment, because she knows what works with her. Understanding that there's not a quick fix for anything, that it's a life change, that, you know, dealing with mental illness is like dealing with any illness. You know, you can't expect to cure it overnight. You have to live with it, you have to work with it, and hope that through the course of time it will be managed and end up pretty much disappearing as a factor in one's life. But I do know that you know, for families out there, you know, there are challenges, and a couple of times I turned towards people where I could lean on and you know, seek a little bit of help in terms of therapy, just to talk my own way through some of the things that I was experiencing, not so much directly understanding my mom, but understanding what was going on inside of me because of the tragedies, because of my mom. Having someone to talk to was extremely important. So even as I was trying to be there for my mother and for my family, knowing that I needed to make sure I was taking care of me also was an extremely important lesson.